Welcome back to Unstable TV! And you're through to Irish Couple Reacts. And do stay tuned because this happens every week.
So if you're new here, don't forget to like, subscribe, comment and hit the bell notification so you don't miss any of these videos. And if you're a returning viewer, thank you!
So recently we've been learning a lot about America and the War of 1812 with the British. So people have asked us to check out when the British burned down the White House. And this was during this war as well, so let's go.
Yep, so a very big shout out to everyone in the comment section for telling us to check this out. Yeah, we seen this in the previous video. We did not realise they did this, so this is going to be wild to see. We definitely want to know more about this. So big shout out to everyone for suggesting this. Let's go!
200 years ago this month, 4,000 British soldiers lay siege to Washington, D.C. and set fire to the U.S. Capitol and the White House. And the burn marks on the White House walls are still there.
We now have evidence of the char marks, the scorching that would have happened when flames were drawn out through open windows and doors and licked up around the tops of the stone.
William Allman is the White House curator.
Is this the best evidence of the one-time enemy forces were in our nation's capital?
As far as I know.
The burning of Washington was the darkest moment for the United States and President James Madison in the War of 1812, a sort of second war of American independence. The British had been interfering with American trade at sea and kidnapping sailors. American efforts to expand westward and north into Canada were being thwarted by the British. 2 years into the war, with the Americans in retreat, British forces reached the nation's capital.
What was Washington like in 1814?
Miserable.
Strung out.
William Allen is historian emeritus for the architect of the Capitol.
Him right there, 10 out of
It was a
10.
construction site, and there were stone yards and brick yards and kilns, and it was just a mishmash.
The Capitol dome hadn't yet been built, but the original House chamber, located on the site of today's Statuary Hall, was an architectural masterpiece, recreated in these digital images.
Many people described it as the most beautiful room in America. It had this glorious ceiling with the 100 skylights.
Was it a fireproof
They're
room?
not there anymore?
The room was
100
fireproof
skylights.
except for the ceiling. And that, of course, was the Achilles heel of the room. The ceiling was wooden, and all they had to do, of course, is to catch the ceiling on fire. When it fell down, the rest of the room would be destroyed. The heat was intense. The glass in the skylights melted, became molten, and fell down in large chunks.
Ooh.
The Capitol's stone walls survived, as well as the Senate vestibule, with its distinctive corncob columns.
And what is the significance of the corncobs?
Well, the significance is the American
So random.
in a classical way, sort of thinking the way classical architects would have thought, using this very important staple of the American diet and the American economy.
And fighting with the British that night were former American slaves.
You know, the British brilliantly exposed a real weak side in American society, and that was slavery and our dependence on slaves. And
Historian Steve Vogel is author of a blow-by-blow account of Washington's capture.
And they offered freedom to
Like a horrible
slaves
side of
in this
society.
region, in the Chesapeake.
Call it what it
You know,
is.
come over to our
Disgusting.
side. You know, we promise you freedom, and if you want to, by the way, you can fight against your former masters.
Moving from the Capitol, British Navy Rear Admiral George
England capitalising on it.
Major General
Yeah,
Robert
capitalising on
Ross, and
incentives.
150 redcoats marched to the White House.
So the British came right through here?
Right through here. Not these steps, but this wall, this door.
Again, White House curator Bill Allman.
And they walked in, and what do you think their first impression was?
I think that it was a pretty good sized house, but not a palatial one.
Right? No Buckingham Palace.
I don't think they were thinking about the size of the house. I think they were just thinking about taking it over.
Yeah.
That it was, you know, reasonably well decorated.
The biggest surprise? A dinner set for 40. So the British feasted in the White House dining room, before burning the mansion down.
I mean, get your money's worth.
The walls survived.
No
Little
shame.
remains of what was
No.
once inside. What does is an American icon.
This is the East Room, the largest room in the house.
This is the room where Teddy Roosevelt's kids used to roller skate, right?
Yes, on a floor that looks much like this one.
And this is the room
What?
where Susan Ford had her senior prom, right?
That's right.
So, more importantly, this is the room with.
This is the great full-length portrait of George Washington by Gilbert Stuart. And this is the one that Dolly Madison rather famously saved. She had already packed up state papers, the red velvet drapes that she had put in the Oval Room. So then, kind of as a last-minute thing, she says, oh, we've got to save General Washington. And she gave the instructions to get it off the wall, and it was bolted on.
Hard to get off.
So they had to pretty much cut the frame open and then, lift the canvas out on its stretcher.
And who did that?
Servants, the maitre d', and one of the family's slaves.
Well, she was also busy cramming silverware into her purse, right?
Yep. She was trying to save everything she could. She was leaving her personal things.
As a rule, the British invaders
taking the silver?
didn't loot.
Silver is
One
prepared.
soldier grabbed this.
And this is believed to be Madison's personal little traveling medicine chest that was taken from the White House by one of the British troops, later passed to a member of one of the naval forces, and then descended in his family until it was given to Franklin Roosevelt in 1939.
Given back.
Given back.
And we're whispering right now because the current president is being interviewed right under us.
Correct.
Okay.
After torching the White House,
I was wondering why
the
they were
British
being
burned the
quiet.
buildings
Yeah,
housing the Departments of State, Treasury, and War, concluding one of the most devastating days in American history.
I mean, can you imagine the scene after the British have departed Washington? The Capitol and the White House are smoldering shells. The American Army has abandoned the city. Nobody knows where President Madison or the cabinet are. It's really impossible to think of many more despondent, desperate moments in American history.
A Union Jack flew over the Capitol.
It did. A lot of people felt that, the young republic was coming to its end, that the American experiment was dying in its infancy.
Fearing an
Experiment.
American counterattack, the British occupation of Washington lasted only a day. Among its overlooked heroes, State Department clerk Stephen Pleasanton, who hid the Declaration of Independence in a Virginia mansion. 6 months later, the war ended in a virtual stalemate. And British leader George Cockburn returned home, where his portrait features Washington blazing in the background.
Wow.
And the very last question, I have to ask, if these walls could talk, what would they say?
The War of 1812 isn't that well known, but I think if these walls could talk, they'd say, well, we're certainly happy that we're still standing here, that we're still occupying this spot, and that the presidents have lived here 200 years since
It's
the
not that
fire.
well
You know
known.
what I think they
No,
said?
it's not all.
Ouch.
The sun. Sorry.
So first off, a very big shout out to the original content creators. Do make sure you go check them out, give them a like, subscribe, share, and all that good YouTube stuff. Thanks so much to everyone in the comment section that did suggest this to us. We do appreciate that. Exactly where we'd like to learn more after watching the War of 1812. We didn't realise, it's horrible what happened, don't get us wrong. Morale would have well and truly been driven seeing your capital burn
Oh, yeah.
to the ground.
Absolutely.
You would have all types of thoughts of, oh my god, this is it, everything we fought for. But shout out to the American people, they stayed strong and kept on fighting. Now, we're going to be controversial. Danielle, go ahead.
Yeah. I mean, it wasn't exactly fair for Britain to take the American slaves out of slavery and then put them into a war. They weren't exactly freeing them from slavery for the right reasons.
No, they're mainly forcing them back into another form of conscription.
Yeah.
You can kill your masters, but realistically, you're being conscripted into another army, and you're being used more or less as a sacrifice.
Yeah, pretty much that's what it was.
We don't have to use our own troops,
Yeah.
and we use you instead. Now, unfortunately, that is history. It's not always pretty.
Most of the time it's not.
No. But we do love learning about it. We're not only taking that away from it. In terms of your average people that were in the capital at that time that had to witness this, imagine that smouldering fire not only that, their livelihoods ruined as well because of this. They thought they were finally getting some type of peace of mind. And I think the disgusting part is in the American society is the slavery that was there. That's always going to be a very, like, he was like a bad area. I think it's disgusting.
Yeah.
So,
And we do realise before somebody says it in the comment section, we know slavery was all around the world.
yeah.
But we're not. This is just the specific thing we're learning about now. So
Yeah, we're speaking specifically on this. We're not taking away from anything else. We're talking about this point in time in history. So apologies to anyone that is feeling a certain type of way.
I do think it's quite cool that they still had some of the stuff from that night as well. And that somebody was still able to save the Declaration of Independence.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Especially in a mansion in Virginia.
Yeah.
Definitely, it's really cool that they went in and showed us that there's still burn marks in the building to this day. Yeah, a wooden roof would 100% be an Achilles heel.
Absolutely.
I didn't realise it was wooden. So yeah, that would be timber fire straight down. You'd have your own personal bonfire. A very
Power play.
power play, yeah, of the English general coming home and get the portrait of Washington burning in the background. I mean, there's some amount of backhanders in history, but to have your professional photo up with that moment in time, that's a really big backhander to America.
It's also a bit strange that this, because it is the White House and it was burned.
Yeah.
That's not more of a bigger and more of an important part in history.
Yeah, we thought that would have been way bigger. Like, it hasn't really stretched across this far in the pond. Like, we only really heard about it from all of you guys in the comments.
I feel like that should kind of be more of a spoken about thing.
Yeah, like, that should be, like, monumental. Because, like, to have your Capitol building, like, in front of your people burned like that should be way more spoken about. Or of America to rise out of the ashes like a phoenix rebuilding itself, to come back and take over again, like to keep going with their independence after seeing that. Like, I'd say the morale was absolutely shattered.
Well, the war only lasted 6 months after that.
Yeah.
So
And brought them to a stalemate.
I think both sides after that were kind of just
Call it a day.
yeah.
But not only that, the interviewer when he asked one of the people working in the White House there, what do you think 1812 was like? Miserable. Just, that's the type of story account you want to hear.
Yeah.
The brutal honesty.
Yeah.
That's the perspectives we want. So on the back of that now, do let us know your guys' opinions in the comments section. Let us know if there's anything further you want to tell us about this history, something we might have missed, or anything that's gone unheard of through American history like this, because this is monumental to hear about this. And of course, that has been our 2 cents, and we'll chop ourselves out of this.
As always, you are the beautiful people of YouTube, and we have been Unstable TV.
So drop a comment below and let us know what you thought of this reaction video. And if you have any suggestions for us to do, let us know too.
And as always, we will see you in the next one.